make it. Okay, so we've got the recording on. Keep it clean. So this is a Hangout, which is supposed to be a relaxed and informal gathering. It's totally voluntary and optional and extra, but it is also your opportunity to connect with each other and with me, your instructor, in an online class. And one of the reasons that I scheduled the first Hangout for such a miserable time, a Saturday morning, is that it's very important that everybody get the minimum database functionality going early this week. And I wanted to try and reach out to anybody who's struggling with that and really focus on that. Beyond that, this is your time and you can drive. I'm happy to have you share out your screen, and I'm also, and so you can show us stuff or ask us questions, and I'm also happy to take requests. So if you've got questions, if there's things you want to see, things you want to try out in the class, let me know. I'll be happy to bring them up on my screen and do my best to accommodate that. Hi, Natalie. Oh, Natalia.
Sorry.
Where'd she go? All right, so Lisa, do you have any thing in particular you'd like to start with? Anything you'd like to see?
I'm just starting out, and so I need to do a lot more today and tomorrow. It's been such a hot week, I didn't expect it to be so hot, so I haven't been doing as much studying as I needed to.
Okay. The really critical part is to make sure that you have some way to use Microsoft SQL Server Express database.
It's all set up.
You have that set up?
Yep.
Good. So let's take a quick straw poll. Mike, you're good to go, I think, on SQL Server Express. You've got your environment working, and I see Mike nodding. And Natalia, have you already gotten your SQL Server Express up and going?
I haven't done it yet. I plan doing it today, but
okay. Now, will you be running a Windows machine?
I'm actually going to do it from a Mac, which is going to be interesting. But it would actually, I have the option to do it from a Windows machine or a Mac. Would you recommend one versus the other?
Well, here's the thing. Truly, it is probably a little bit more straightforward to do everything from a standalone Windows machine. That's easy. Now, if you're feeling a little more adventurous, or if you are starting early in the week and have a little time to burn, you can use your Mac. Here's the issue. The database itself will not run on the Mac OS. So you would either have to do something like dual boot, because you can run Windows on your Mac. So you would do dual boot using something like Parallels or Boot Camp, or run a VM virtual box so that you can run Windows on a Mac at the same time you're running the Mac operating system. That would be one way to do it. That actually, if you don't already have that set up and haven't learned to do those kind of things on your Mac, I wouldn't do it that way. It's just too much extra stuff to learn, and let's try and keep this, streamlined for success. The rule number one in my class is first, get all the points, right? Okay, so the easiest way to get the points is the best way to get the points. So what's an easier way if you're running a Mac? One way to do it is to set up services, free tier account, and you can actually run the database in the cloud. Okay, that solves running the database. There's two pieces to the database. There's the database engine itself, which is kind of invisible. It's out in the cloud. And then there's this piece. Let's see it. Can you see that all right? You should be seeing.
Yeah, I can see it.
Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. This is the front end. This is the query editor. This is your development platform. And this connects from the client computer to the database. Now, the database could be running on the same computer, but we're talking about you're running on a Mac. So you're going to be connecting to a database running on some foreign machine, either another machine in your network or using Amazon Web Services. Now, what's Amazon Web Services and what is all that about? Amazon is getting into cloud services in a big way. And one of the things that is really cool for us that they're doing is they're giving away some level of their services to get people to try things out. And so one of the things we can do on Amazon Web Services is we can create what they call a free tier account. And there are a lot of services at some level we can run for free, including everything we need for this class running a database. Probably the biggest challenge with Amazon Web Services is they have so many different services. You know, our little piece of it drowns in this whole sea. And let me go ahead and bring that up and show you. Drowns in the sea of what they offer. Okay, so here's the Amazon Web Services page, and I've already got a sign-in created, and the only downside to the free tier account is, although it's a free tier, they do require that you give them a credit card in order to validate that you're a real person to make the account, and that may not be possible for every student. If anybody needs to use a Mac computer and can't get a free tier account going, let me know. I have a couple other alternatives that we can use that won't cost you anything, and I can fix that for probably half a dozen students if we needed to. If it's more than that, we need to look at it, but I don't think that's the numbers that we have. I'm going to go ahead and sign into the console with my account. And holy smokes, there's all this stuff out there that you can do with Amazon Web Services. And I have a tutorial video in the lessons. You should, probably the first thing you want to do when you look at our course shell Moodle is there's in week 1, there's sort of a start here lesson, and it's a decision tree that says, asks you questions. So it says, are you going to do this from a Mac? Are you going to do this all at home from Windows? Are you going to come into the campus computer lab? And it will lead you to the right combination of videos to watch, the tutorials that will step you through how you set all this up. So in the videos, it'll show you that what we want is over here under this database piece, under RDS are a whole bunch of different databases. So this is like a great sandbox, a great playground to learn stuff beyond what we're going to cover in this class. But we're going to focus on just our needs for right now. There's my RDS dashboard for databases. If I didn't already have an instance created, spun up, I would create a new instance. But I have one. And notice this count could have up to 40 instances. And if I click on the instance that's already up, I will see that I have a SQL Server Express, and I've named that DB instance CIS 117. So when you first tell it to create one for you, you give it a name, and then it will create when it spins it up, and it takes 10-15 minutes to get that spun up, and then it'll let you know that it's completed the task. Then you can go in and look at the instance actions and find the details. And the details are going to give us a friendly name, basically an internet name called an endpoint. And that's instead of having to remember a TCP IP address. And this instance name is what we're going to copy and use to make our connection on our SQL client. Now, the other thing that's going to be a little bit different than what I'm showing you here is I've been showing you the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, and I said this is the query client. On the Mac, you can use a different free client. This software, unfortunately, the Microsoft package won't run, but you don't have to use the Microsoft SQL client in order to talk to a Microsoft SQL Server database. There are others. One of our students is using dbeaver, and I've got the links in there. And dbeaver is a free open source tool, and it looks very much like this, and it works very well. Okay. So once I have that piece of information that I got from the endpoint, if I copy and paste that, then I'm at this point I'm basically done with my DB instance that I've spun up, and I can come back over into my SQL Server Management Studio, and I can tell it I want to make a connection to a database engine, and I've already got this one in here. And let's see if we look at the options. So I've put in that long string on the server name.
Yeah.
And then I'm using, when I talk to the database remotely on a non-Windows platform like the Amazon Web Services, I'm going to use SQL Server authentication rather than my integrated Windows authentication. If I were in a big corporate network where they use the Active Directory credential, or if I was on my own Windows machine, I might just use my own Windows authentication, which means my Windows account would go ahead and log me in with all the privilege I need. But I'm going to go ahead and use, since I'm connecting remotely to the Amazon instance, I'm going to use the SQL Server authentication. I've already put my ID and password in there. And then the default port and other settings should be correct. In TCP/IP and communicating over the internet, there's something called a port number that's sort of like that's like your home address. You have the street number you live on, but the home address tells, or like your apartment number. That's what the port number is. Which room in that building.
Mhm.
So port 1433 is right. We don't even have to change that, which I really like about this. The default will work. Well, let's see if it'll work. And we'll go ahead and connect in. And lo and behold, it's connected. And if I expand out the databases, I see that I have already created these databases. Now, the thing is, when you first connect, there will be no databases other than the system databases. Okay, so what you're going to need to do is to create these databases. And of course, we haven't learned all the SQL commands necessary to do that. So the setup for that is available in a script file. And that script file can be downloaded from our Moodle. So here's our Moodle. And I probably have a few more courses or different courses than you do. Let's go into 117. And so as I scroll down, there's something called Files You Will Need this term. And if we open that up, there is this script here. There's several of them. This one is the one I have created that has my data set for all of our assignments, the graded assignments. These are all of the sample databases from the book, so you can work the exercises in the book. And one of the things that I have done for your first actual programming assignment, which you'll be starting in week 2. Week 2 opened on Thursday, so we're now week 2 is now available to you. I have designed a lot of my exercises to be very parallel, very similar. And then in the tutorial videos I posted, I show you how to solve the books exercise using, for example, TAL distributors. And then you could look at that, then look at the question that's worded a little bit differently and addresses this database. So you've got a guide. If you've never done this before, it should really help to guide you through, so you learn the technique and you transfer it to the new situation. Go on to the next exercise, learn the technique, transfer it to the new situation. So it should be pretty accessible, no matter what your level of experience with this. And if you're a SQL pro already, you're just nodding and going, yeah, Professor Beck, move on. Okay, I get it. Thank you for your patience, because we're all starting at the beginning at some point in our lives. So we got to make sure everybody gets a good start. So if you click on that, you can go ahead and download it. And I'm gonna move our video for just a second. So go ahead and save that out somewhere. And I'll just go ahead and drop it on the desktop for now. Okay. And then set Moodle aside. And so we can open a file in a query. So File, or Open File. And we can go get that. This is actually in a different folder than on my desktop. Let's go look at the one I just put on the desktop. Okay, we open that up, And it's good to look this over because you'll see some of the commands that we will be learning, but you're not expected to know what all of them do yet. But obviously, it's going to create the database. And then in the database, it's going to create the tables. And then within the tables, after they're created, we're going to populate them with the data. So let's go ahead and run this and see if it executes correctly. That never happens during a live demo. That it worked. So if that database had not been created, it would have been created brand new. And this is also a really useful technique because you're going to be experimenting and playing with this data. What happens if you mess stuff up or you make a mistake? How do you get back to a clean start? That's it. Just do exactly what I did. Reload the database. It'll wipe out everything that you've changed and set you back to the expected state. And that's important because when I grade your work, I may not, sometimes there's 5 different ways to create the exact correct logic, but it looks differently. You know, this and that, or that and this comes out to the same thing. So rather than grading necessarily all of your logic, a lot of times I know what the correct result will be. I may be looking at your result set. So if you're working with the standard data, then you know it's going to be fine. If you've modified the data outside of what the instructions tell you to, I may look at that and go, well, that's not right. And I don't want to take points off incorrectly. Okay, so just looking at what happened here in this query. It came in, it saw that the database already existed, it did a little cleanup, dropped the database, and then created it all fresh. And that was pretty snappy considering that I'm working with a free virtual computer that I'm connecting to over the internet, and I'm doing it at the same time that we've got 4 video feeds going. I just like, that's pretty
impressive. It doesn't seem that bad actually. Maybe I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the forums and I saw like I was having some issues with my computer this week, and anyway, but I saw you messaged like, congratulations, you got your database set up on a Mac. And I was like, oh, is it something that's worth congratulating? So I was
well,
like, this may not bode well for me.
I was very proud of that because, see, I like to test everything that I ask you guys to do. And there's simply, I do not have a Mac, and in the business and communications lab building where I work, there are no Macs. I have to go elsewhere on campus, and then I have to get one of the lab admins to unlock it so I can install software. So not being a Mac guru, I had to do a lot of research. I found 3 open source free Mac database clients that will work with SQL Server, but I was uneasy about it because I hadn't been able to test it myself. So when one of the students had gone ahead and connected that way and it worked, I was like, yes! Right? So freeze frame that and it'll go viral on the, yes! Put that on the internet. I'll make that my profile pic.
We'll make a meme.
Great. Okay, so once we have that up, then you're ready to do one of the discussions for this week, which asks you to do some exercises that will basically just show that the environment is working correctly for you, and your assignment. And the assignment is really pretty simple. The assignment looks like this. Let's create a new query on the current connection. And so I'm going to say use the CIS 117 DB database, and then once that's in use, and if you forget what the names of some of the objects are, you can click on the database tree to expand it out. So if I forget what the table names are, customers, items, order details, and orders. So I can come in here and I can say select. Now I want to select all the records, and there's an easy way to do that. I can say wildcard. Okay, so it's like a one-eyed jack if we're playing some poker. It matches anything. It's any card I want it to be. Select everything, matching anything from, and the table name here is customers. And you'll notice that this database editor, which is Microsoft's, has something really nice. It's called Autocomplete. And it's part of what Microsoft calls IntelliSense. And so since it already knows from the fact that I used this database that these are the objects that I can select on that database. So if I select star from, I started type CU, and so it's got customers, it'll finish it for me, and then to let the computer know that I have completed the command, this is the end of a command, I put a semicolon, and then when I'm ready to run it, we hit execute. And let me move the splitter bar up just a little bit. And so these are all the records in customer, okay? So this is, it looks like a table, looks like an Excel spreadsheet. In fact, you can even export it to an Excel spreadsheet to look it over, or edit it and whatnot offline. That wouldn't change the data in the database. But we'll find in business, a lot of people do that. You know, they pull the data down and then they play with it locally to do various things. But the columns are also known as fields, and that goes across the database. So these are all the customer cities for all of the records. Records are in rows. So a row relates to just one entity. So this, for instance, is our customer Blanca Cora, and these are all the customer attributes for Blanca. So there's her address, her city, state, zip, etc. Okay. Questions?
This might be kind of obvious, but I have some limited understanding of SQL, and I've never ended a statement with a semicolon. Is that just kind of a style choice, or does that have a function?
That's actually a part of the formal syntax of the language, and that tells you that this command has ended. Let's play with that and see what happens if we don't do it.
Well, I was like, I've never ended with a semicolon. It'll still like display the data that I want to save.
Now let's first do it properly. So this runs this query and then runs this query, because we can have it do a whole bunch of things, like writing a little program. Do this, do that, do something else. A SQL script or SQL query is a number of commands. If I end it properly, it says, okay, computer, you are to interpret this as its own little program and then go on to the next one. So let's see what happens when we do that. Okay, now it happens so fast, sometimes hard to see, but notice I have two tables stacked down here as results. So we got the first query, which was customers, and the second query, which was items. Both of those ran. If I had left the semicolon off of the first one, looking to see if I can clear just the results pane. We'll just go ahead and run it. Let us get away with that. There are a lot of things it won't let us do without the semicolon. Okay, so in this case, this particular, the Microsoft parser is allowing that as optional. There are many cases where the syntax absolutely won't work, and frankly, the ANSI standard says that it really should have a semicolon there. So yeah, we got away with it this time. We won't always.
Yeah, maybe I've just been doing really simple queries where I got away with it just like you did right now. So, but that's good to know.
So I'm selecting out all of the customers where the first name has an O in it. And I'm going to comment out here. Goodness, I've forgotten the problem with speaking too many languages. You forget the syntax. Anybody remind me what the comment is in SQL? There we go. Double dash. Okay, so I've just turned that off by changing it from a command into a documentation to a comment. Let's go ahead and run this. Let's see if it'll run without the semicolon. Okay. Okay, so these are all the customers. This is the match any characters. So it's another kind of wildcard. And so anybody who has an A anywhere in their first name are listed. And that's letting me get away with it, again, without a semicolon. Let's see what happens if we put this in there. Yeah, okay. It's being very forgiving. There will be queries that if you do not put the semicolon in there, it's going to run into some trouble in separating the command. So you're going to have to start using the semicolon. I would just use it routinely because that's what the syntax really calls for. Even though the Microsoft implementation is not demanding it, other databases will, and you're going to run into it in Microsoft databases as well on SQL Server. Okay. So at this point, we've talked a little bit about how to do a setup of the database. We've shown how to install and run the script to create the tables and populate them, and we've done a few queries. So if this is where you are at the end of this this first week, then you're right where you're supposed to be, and you should be able to do the rest of the exercises this term really well. Anybody that and we're going to record this, so if anybody is not at this point by the end of week one, you're going to be losing points on the week one assignments, but you need to get a hold of me right away because we need to make sure that you have some means of using the SQL Server database in order to succeed in the class. This is a very practical class. There's absolutely no way to succeed without having this up and working. And I sometimes get asked, well, Professor, can I do this in another database that I have? Can I do it in Microsoft Access, or can I do it in MySQL? Or no, in this course, we are teaching to SQL Server. So I'm going to require that you have that working environment for the simple expedience that if you're working in another database, you have problems. It limits how I can help you, and what you're going to do is going to be looking a little bit different than it will in SQL Server, and it's going to be that much more of an obstacle to your learning. Truly, everything we're learning this term applies to, in principle, to all of the other relational database systems that you're likely to encounter: Postgres, MySQL, Oracle, and so on. The details will change a little bit, and you will find some features might be incompletely implemented. Most of the features and language features that we're exploring this term are really fundamental, so they're very common to almost all relational database systems, and there are very few differences with regard to the commands we'll be using. Mike, you're very quiet there. You good?
Yeah, I'm doing good over here.
Okay. So Mike, tell us what's your experience with database systems?
So I kind of use SQL in my current job a lot, and so this is kind of like just to see if there's any extra knowledge I can gain from this class. And then I'm taking this class with a few coworkers, so trying to help them out too.
Oh, great. Good for you. Yeah, I always appreciate having a student in class that is more experienced. You can not only deepen your learning, but it makes everybody else's experience just that much better. And so please share your experiences and your anecdotes. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to check in back in Moodle again. Let me bring up our Moodle site here. But if you take a look at week one of the things that I've been trying kind of experimentally here is, I have not done this exact thing in another class in this way. One of the discussions that I brought in is what I call a C1, B1, T1. So it's, first you're going to C1, then you're going to practice being one, and then you're going to T1 off the T and send it down the fairway and help others to learn it as well. And I think that the theory here is that you never learn something quite as deeply and thoroughly as when you actually teach somebody else how to do it. and I've had some good responses so far. Some of these are absolutely phenomenal. If you could take a look at the videos that folks have brought in and shared with us, they produce these. They're just little, between 1 minute and 5 minute videos showing just one micro element of something they learned. It can be very, very simple. It could be, how do I connect to my database? There it is. And they've just done a fabulous job with those. So I recommend, if when you have some time, or if you're stuck on something while you're waiting for the professor to get back to you, go through the C1B1T ones, because there's some just dynamite tutorial stuff, and some of them are demonstrating things that I either haven't had time or haven't thought to show you about the environment, and so some of those tips are just absolutely fabulous. All right, I think we lost Irene there. So Natalie, is this your first, I'm sorry, I keep calling you Natalie because
it's all right, I'm not offended. Is this my first experience with SQL that you're asking? Or?
This is your first database experience?
Actually, funny enough, I work with Mike, and Mike has kind of shown me on the job a couple, like a basic understanding of SQL, but I haven't actually used it like Mike does, so some of the concepts are still a little fuzzy to me, or I have a basic understanding, but basically I haven't had to do any assignments that really require me to call upon that knowledge, which is what I think this class will be helpful for, because you have all these assignments where it's not just understanding what is a select statement, or it's kind of trying to actually do useful things with the database. So I would like to pick up some more useful skills.
It is a very practical class. Probably, I'm going by my anecdotal experience rather than having actually surveyed it, but I think about half of the students we have in this class this term are not necessarily regularly enrolled students. They're students who wanted to pick up some more database experience, and they're working in industry. I've got folks working for the county and for City of Santa Barbara, and some folks working at Citrix and other Santa Barbara or Ventura County area employers. And this is a really good class because it's a short course, so we don't have 16 weeks of it. And in this course, I have mixed emotions about this because I love teaching and studying all of the database science, but we don't spend any time in this course looking at the design theory. So we don't learn about the analysis and the decomposition of requirements in order to build specifications, and then how to normalize tables and how to build what they call entity relationship diagrams. All that is great, and it's all very worthwhile. But a lot of the students that are taking this course, they just want to get down to, okay, I need to learn to do this for my employer because I need to be able to generate reports, and what my manager wants in the report changes from day to day, so I need to be able to build it dynamically, and it needs to be something that we can do in the department rather than sending it into the IT department to do, because they'll do it, but it'll take 3 months and cost us $10,000. So ad hoc reporting for decision support it's actually a multi-billion-dollar market in and of itself. We'll be offering some additional courses starting in 2016 to address that, things that work with just database report writers, such as the Crystal Reports engine, and that sort of thing. It's very valuable. It's used across industries, but really big in the Santa Barbara area. Of course, medical reporting and that kind of stuff, anything that does light manufacturing. There's always that HR departments use this kind of query capability, throughout all medium to large corporations. So a very good skill to have, a very cash in the bank skill. So Lisa, can you unmute and tell us a little bit about your database experience?
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Oh, great. I just put my headphones on. I'm just a beginner, so just starting, and my husband uses it, and I'm just excited to learn, and that's about it.
Very good. Okay. I noticed you stepped away for a couple minutes. Again, I will post the recorded. I'll put this up on YouTube on an unpublished channel, and I'll put the link in the course shell so that you can come back and review it. And the nice thing there is you can always fast forward through anything that's not of interest to you or anything that you want to see done a second time or a third time. You can rewind and play it.
Great. Thank you.
So, all right. So I have covered kind of the things I had in mind to show, but I'm here for you, and I've done way too much of the talking. Tell me, what else would you like to see, or what are your other questions about the course or concerns? Don't all talk at once. Okay.
I have actually one, sorry, one really simple question, but just to double check. I noticed you sent an email that we're not using the Moodle email service, or Gmail, I think.
Right.
Okay, and one of the assignments required us to send an email using that service. Would you just like us to, I wasn't sure if you just wanted us to ignore that assignment or send you an email just generally from our SBCC email address, or it's obviously not.
The fact that you showed up for this Hangout, that you're good. Okay, so you met that requirement. In all of our online courses, we have an orientation kind of module, and the reason we didn't catch the fact that they just dropped Gmail from within Moodle is that none of us that teach online think to edit the standard orientation module, and also we got the word that they dropped Gmail very, very late. Gmail was a way that you could email to the instructor directly from within Moodle. There were problems with it, so they decided to just dump it, and we didn't get it cut out of our orientation documentation stuff before the course started, and so it left everybody kind of confused. I apologize for that. The purpose of there are two things that almost every orientation Moodle package has in it is. One is, well, there's three. There's a quiz of some description, and there's no points for the quiz. The whole point of that quiz is I have now taken a Moodle quiz. I know what to expect when I have to take one for real money. Secondly is send an email to your instructor and have that acknowledged. The point is we want to make sure that you can communicate, because it is very easy to feel isolated and all alone or invisible as an online student, and that contributes to a less good student outcome. Students drop, students fail silently, and so you hear from me a lot, and I'm kind of annoying because I'm checking in to say, how are you doing? I haven't heard from you. I missed that assignment. Did you know that submission was there, or a submission is coming up, and that kind of stuff, because we try and turn that around. That's also the purpose of this Hangout, is to try and connect with people, and even people that just look at a couple minutes of the recording are going to feel a little bit more connected. They know that I am your instructor. I am a real person, not a computer. Well, not yet. And that your success matters to me. And you can pick up the phone and call me. I made my telephone number as easy as possible. If you're in the 805, just dial the letters Prof Tel. What's your professor's telephone number? Prof Tel. And something like from 9 in the morning to 8 at night, Monday through Friday, that rings right through to my cell phone that I carry. If I'm in a class or can't answer it or something else, then you leave a voicemail message, and I get an email about it, and I get an email with the MP3 attached, and I get an automated transcript. I can look at it. So even if it's after hours and you call that number, so you call Sunday afternoon, hey, that's my family time. You may think it's an emergency, but I may not think it's an emergency, but I'll look at that Sunday afternoon and go, oh, actually, yeah, that's terrible what happened to that student. I've got a couple minutes. I'll give a call and see if I can help with that. So you might even, I won't promise it, but you might get a call back from me on a Sunday or something. But that way you can reach out. I will have looked at it, and at the worst case, I'll be back with you, first thing on Monday morning, connecting to see if I can get it sorted out, because I don't want you to feel like you're, lost on a desert island, or at least not one that's not appropriately equipped with a cabana and little drinks with umbrellas in them.
I have two questions also.
All right.
All right, so on the general orientation, one of the things was to change the timeout on pipeline, but I'm guessing that's changed.
To change the what on pipeline?
The timeout time to like 120 minutes, I think.
Oh, I didn't even see that part. What's your question about that feature? I'll have to look at it.
It said where to go, and that place isn't there anymore, so I'm guessing that's been updated. Is everybody at 120 minutes now?
Yeah, I think that's now the default, and they just upgraded pipeline, and so I don't know if anybody else was caught in not being able to get on pipeline to register for classes a couple days, and oh, growing pains. It's kind of the struggle we have with everything. So clearly, I apologize. We need to update all of the orientation materials, stuff that we have you doing. Some of it, the Jmail, the timeout, it's no longer relevant. Also, none of the orientation stuff is graded, but what I do use it for, particularly what I look for is I look for that email or that message, and I look for you taking the quiz and doing that assignment post. Is I want to see that students are actually, connected with the course. And students that aren't connected with the course, a little later this afternoon, I'm going to send out a whole bunch of emails again to students that maybe have logged on, because I've already sent emails out to people who have never logged on. I'm going to drop you. Are you okay? What's going on? I want you to succeed. I don't want this to roll over to be a W for you or a fail. And these days, W's count, because too many W's, you can't repeat the course again. So I want to help I'd like to help students succeed, but if they're not going to succeed, I need to ease them out of the course before it hurts their opportunities in the future. So I'll be doing the same thing with students that have logged on and have maybe participated a little bit, but if they haven't done the other orientation activities, reaching out to me in some way, message or pipeline email instead of Jmail, or at least tried the online quiz, I'll be emailing today because I have to turn in my drop rosters on September 1st. And so I'm going to be, trying to reach out to those students going, hey, what's up? Do you really plan to take the class? It looks like I'm going to drop you, but let me know if you don't want me to drop you, but you're not really kind of participating, and that's not a way you can succeed. So we try and have that conversation early.
I have another question as well.
Yeah.
I read that all the tests are open book or open notes, open computer. Is it possible to view the test at the first before doing the reading to kind of have an eye out to what I'm looking for?
I wish I could do it that way. The tests are timed. So you have a limited amount of time to take the tests, and the questions and the level of difficulty of the test questions and exercises are geared toward the amount of time that we provide. And so if we were to do what you're suggesting, they would still have merit, but they would be more like an assignment than a test, because we wouldn't have that time dimension. And we've got to keep that in there because it helps to motivate students to be well prepared and to have already mastered the materials. If you feel that I've misjudged on any of the time allotments for the tests that I've provided, let me know, because I can certainly look at adjusting those. But most of them are in this course are pretty liberal. I think I've got the quizzes set to an hour and a half, and most of them are, not that many questions, and they're not very difficult questions. If you have already been exposed to the material and done through the week what you are supposed to do, most of it should be a breeze. That said, I would recommend that OpenNote, OpenBook, Open Computer is another resource. So if there's a question that says, what does SQL do with this? Well, try it out. Then As a matter of fact, try it out and save the sample, in a little note, and that way, if I mark you wrong, you come argue with me and say, "Well, Professor, I actually did it, and it did this thing, and I think I should get points." I'll look at it. I'm willing to discuss anything, but I'll be the final arbiter on whether I give you the point or not. But if something doesn't look right, if it doesn't seem equitable, I want to hear about it, because you and I have two different but compatible objectives. You want to get an A, I want you to learn something. Okay.
I just want to learn SQL so I can get a good job.
Well, and getting the A won't hurt that either. So you help me out by meeting my objective, which is you learn something. I'll help you out by doing everything I can to get you the A. As a matter of fact, I'll do half the work for you. The problem with that is half the work is 50%, and 50% only got you as far as F. But I got you. I got you above G and H and I and J and K, right? I got you all the way up to the top of the alphabet. The last 5 letters are up to you, right?
Yeah, quick question. So I accidentally opened the orientation test right away. And so is it timed out or can I still do it?
It's probably timed out, and I don't care, because one of the reasons that we give you an orientation test that is worth 0 points is so that you can make that kind of mistake, and without having to go to the cardiac ward and it's like, oh, okay, well, I screwed that up. Send me an email to remind me, and what I'll do is I'll reset it for you. So actually, you know what, the orientation test I think is set for multiple attempts. So I'm wrong there. Just go right back in. You can do it again. Most of the tests are not, but again, the purpose that orientation test purpose has been served, and that was to let you make that error or without it costing you anything. And so there you go.
I think I saw something about how you have for each 3 attempts to do any test. I think I saw some sort of note about that, so we should be fine.
No.
Oh, well, maybe it was a quiz or something.
Just the orientation quiz.
Oh, then never mind.
Yeah, the others are set to 1 attempt, and it's timed. And I have had very clever students who have done very interesting things, like modify the JavaScript in the web page they're using so it changes the timer and whatnot. And it's like, okay, you got to understand there's a client side and there's a server side, and the server side clock keeps going on what it originally set from. And so all you've done is fooled yourself, and they're shocked when, but I reset the clock, I hacked it, and it's still closed. Yeah, so there are ways to hack Moodle. Nothing is perfect, but sometimes you can be clever enough to tie your own shoelaces together. So don't do it. If you're that smart, that's great. Focus on doing it the legit way. And then, once you have impressed me by doing it the legit way, if you want to knock my socks off by showing me, some clever way to get around it, that's great. But the thing to remember is I simply detest failing students in my bare feet. So don't knock my socks out without first getting the A. All right, Mike gave me a courtesy smile. I know, the jokes are pretty poor. All right. So it's about 10 minutes to the hour, and I'm going to wrap up here at least in the next 10 minutes, and I'm going to do a CIS 118 Hangout for my 118 class. Other questions, anything else that you'd like to see or that we can work on together as a group here before we wrap up?
Just wanted to say thank you for offering the class, and thanks for the Hangout. It's helpful. I'm
glad it's helpful, and I hope the recording will be helpful to some people as well. I want to stay connected, and if you like this, I'll do more Hangouts. I generally won't spend Saturday mornings on Hangouts. We'll try and do them more in the midweek. Has anybody got feedback on what are, I know every time sucks, but what time sucks least for you and your family as far as days and times for Hangouts?
I may just have a little extra noise, but I can mute on this side with my kids. But all times are okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I will try and keep in mind that during the week, most people are working professionals, and I may try and see if we can squeeze a couple in at lunch times. It's difficult with my family to do things like at the 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock hours. We would have a lot of background noise in my room. I've bribed the kids to go out and eat sugar and misbehave elsewhere for this Saturday morning, but I can't afford to do that all the time. So probably it will be middays or afternoons during the week. I'll send out a Google Calendar invite, and then my apologies, because like I say, no time is perfect and no time works for everybody. I'll try and mix it up a little bit to give everybody an opportunity, and I will record these. So you can always fast through the recording and see if there's anything that was actually useful to you or not. Great. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.